Nick, we're going to review Eli Roth's Thanksgiving. Come over here. Jump on this trampoline. There's nothing bad that could possibly happen to you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Two Peas on a Podcast, a holiday episode.
Wait, sorry.
A different holiday. As this is releasing the week of Thanksgiving. Gerald is here with you, and of course, on the other side, the stuffing to my gravy. What? The gravy to my stuffing. I don't know. Nicholas, what's up, man?
I hope we're eating some of that stuffing with a slice of this delicious turkey, baby. Just
man,
video audience, soak it in. Audio audience, be glad that you don't have to see it. You're welcome. This is if looking at our faces isn't enough of a reason to deter you from watching the video podcast, looking at this god awful, horrible thing should definitely seal it for you.
You know I have a 4-year-old. You know the fake food that you can buy for like the toy kitchens and stuff.
Yeah.
I think he has that same.
Oh, does he have this one? Is that where he got it from? Oh,
that might be. It looks a lot like a Fisher Price. I'm not sure though. But
did Eli Roth call you and was like, "Ooh, dude, can I borrow your rubber turkey, man? Because like ours is like, ooh." And you're like, oh man, it's okay. It just looks like the skin fell off of it, but we just kind of wrapped it back around it and like glued it back in place. Like it looks okay, right?
Yeah, it'll be fine. Look at the so we're gonna be
disgusting.
We pivoted a little bit this week, guys, because Nick was gracious enough to go out to the theater this weekend and check out Thanksgiving, the new Eli Roth slasher. And we were gonna do Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven, so we're gonna push that to next week. We spun the wheel last week. It landed on me. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm very excited to talk about that with you, Nick. But I figured, you know what? It's Thanksgiving. This episode is going to be coming out on Thanksgiving Eve.
You figured I'm the horror guy.
So why don't we talk about Thanksgiving? Now, I went to see this Friday of last week, and I was thinking to myself, man, it's a bummer we're not covering it on the show. But I feel like I've been throwing a lot of horror at you because we just came out of the Halloween season. But I hope you dug this one, man. We're going to talk about it. It's an Eli Roth slasher film. It's a holiday slasher. But before we get into it, Nick, we start every episode out with what we call one big question.
You've got to ask yourself a question.
I have a lot of questions. Number one, how dare you?
Yeah.
How
Number
dare
two,
that turkey?
Dark meat or light meat? Which one do you want?
Is that your big question? That's actually a good question, though.
That would be a great one, right?
Yeah, that's tough. I don't know, probably white meat, but I like them both.
Okay.
All right, you want to go first, or you? I got one for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw one at you here.
Right.
It's a Thanksgiving movie, Gerald. Yeah. It's a Thanksgiving movie. So ultimate, like top 3 Thanksgiving sides. Give them to me, baby. Give them to me. The top of the top, the absolute top tier of Thanksgiving sides. Give them to me.
All right. Well, first with the bullet is mashed potatoes. I love. It's one of my favorite foods. Literally any meal I could do mashed potatoes. Obviously with gravy, it makes it even better.
Yep.
Probably gonna throw macaroni and cheese in there. A nice baked macaroni and cheese with the cheese baked on top. And then I would probably say, because I can only pick a third one, right? So I would probably go stuffing. We just talked about that. Stuffing with gravy. I was going to say green bean casserole, which would be a very, very close number 4 for me.
Sub-question.
What about you?
Question. Stuffing versus dressing. Which one? Stuffing versus
I know.
dressing.
You and I have talked about this before. What's the difference again? So
Stuffing,
dressing like goes inside the
No. Stuffing is quite literally stuffed in the bird, Gerald. And dressing is if you just bake it outside of the bird.
Dressing then.
Okay, so you don't like it in the bird. See, I like stuffing. I like it when all the juices from the turkey, like all that turkey like flavoring, like drips in there and it gets nice and moist. Because I like a wet stuffing. Like I guess it depends on if you like it wet or if you like it dry. Yeah, that's right, baby.
What about you? What are your 3 sides? If you
mashed potatoes, which bar none. Number 2, stuffing. Number 3, dinner rolls. Homemade.
Bam.
Especially last year for last Thanksgiving, I did scratch made brioche dinner rolls. Ooh, man. Let me tell you, building a little turkey slider out of that boy, and you drench it in some gravy. Gravy doesn't qualify as a side, right? Because gravy's just you drench everything in gravy on the Thanksgiving plate. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
no,
like a
you build a
garnish
little.
almost.
Oh man, so I on a food stream a while ago, I made homemade challah bread, and I've still got the challah bread dough frozen because I had to do that like test kitchen like TV cooking show kind of thing where I was like, and here's one I made earlier because I couldn't take up the whole stream waiting for it to
Ah,
rise, and
yeah.
so I have that one. I'm gonna make that. I'm gonna make homemade challah bread rolls with that, and I can't wait for that either. I mean, challah bread's like so eggy and dense and sweet. It's gonna be so good. Can't wait. Can't wait. I
Well,
got a
now
lot of
the
cooking ahead of me over the next like 3 days, Gerald. This can be
I know this is
glorious.
like this is your zone right
My
here, man.
Super Bowl,
Thanksgiving.
baby.
Yeah, for sure, dude. Oh man, I wish I was there to taste some of those goodies. So my one big question is not not as wholesome as a Thanksgiving question as yours was. It's more on the slasher side of things, on the horror movie side of things,
God.
but it's related kind of to Thanksgiving or feasting or whatever. So you've seen you've seen your share of horror movies. Obviously, you haven't seen them all, but
Thank God.
what can you think of that is a cooking utensil or instrument for cooking, something that would maybe be found on the Thanksgiving table or at a dinner table that could be used as a weapon for a kill in a horror movie that you have not seen? What's an interesting food related weapon that we have not seen in a horror movie that you're aware of?
That I'm aware of is going to be probably a big category. I'm going to go with the food instrument that has claimed many a fingertip from many a chef and home cook alike, the mandolin, man. If anybody has
Ooh,
ever used the mandolin, you
that's
have cut
it.
yourself on a mandolin, but like imagine if
Yeah.
like an evil killer like had your face and was like slicing it up on the mandolin or something like that. I mean, I guess it's a little small.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how you can necessarily kill a person with it. You probably maim
I
them
don't
real
know.
bad with it or whatever. Like
Well,
maybe you just have like a really big one. Like you have at the beginning of the movie, they set up like, oh man, we just bought the world's biggest mandolin. Check this thing out. You could do like a dozen onions on it
ooh,
at once. And then
ooh.
somebody just gets mandolined like whole, and there's like slices of the body like slicing off like super
Let's
nice
do
and
it.
wafer thin so you can fry them up. Yeah, baby.
Yeah, let's do it. Well, mine's even weirder because I was thinking, you know what? Nobody's had a really cool like body horror scene with a pair of tongs. Let's fucking go, dude. Like, let's get the tongs.
Gerald,
Like,
you keep your bedroom out of this, okay?
heat them up. You know what I mean? To peel some skin off or do something crazy. Take eyeballs out with it. I don't know.
Don't bring your bedroom antics into this. That's God.
It was too close to home, right? A pair of tongs. Again, I don't know how you kill somebody with those, but I don't know. We'll figure it out. If it's a horror movie,
The points on them are sharp enough where if you stab with enough force, you could pierce skin with those for sure.
yeah, dude. Yeah. So there you go. That was one big question this week. A lot of fun for Thanksgiving, kind of inspired, slasher kind of inspired, but appreciate that, Nick.
Good God, sorry. Ooh.
Gobble, gobble. All right, so as we get into the discussion of Eli Roth's Thanksgiving, we always give our score up top, Nicholas, out of 10. Now, you and I have not discussed this with each other. I shot you a text yesterday. I said, hey, man, I went to see Thanksgiving this weekend. Do you want to do it this week? And you said, you know what? I think I can make that happen. So you saw it, I don't know, about 24 hours ago, and I don't know what you thought. And we'll see. So out of 10, we will count in from 3. You want to count us in, Nick?
Yeah, let's do it.
Damn it, this always happens. I think I'm gonna score and then I never score. It's not fair.
It's not fair.
It's not fair. Here we go.
All right. So come on. 3,
3,
2,
2,
1.
1. Oh,
Wah,
my God.
wah, wah, wah.
All right,
That's
let's say
a 4.
it. Let's
That's a
say
4.
it for the audio audience. I
Nope.
have an 8 out of 10,
That's a 4. That's
and
a
Nicholas
4.
has a 4
A
out of
dancing
10,
4 at that.
which is
a dancing 4
so
at that.
an 8 from me, a 4 from Nick is a 6. Cumulatively from the P's.
I told you a long time ago. I'm gonna drag down the average score of any horror movie, except for Totally
Well-
Killer, which my score was higher than yours for that one.
I know, yeah, that was weird. That's
whatever
still
reason.
a weird one for me, but well, okay. So you want to go first? You want me to go first?
You made me go see this instead of watching Clint Eastwood. I want you to know that.
You know, I was kind of weary that you were not going to like this as much as I did. So I'm not super shocked because, you're not a horror guy and it's not your go-to genre. But for me, and this is spoiler free, by the way, guys, for a few minutes here, we'll let you know when we get into spoilers and start talking about the kills and all that kind of stuff. So spoiler free at the top here. But, Eli Roth, I was actually talking to our buddy Dan before you got on the call, and he's a filmmaker that's kind of hit or miss for me. Like, every once in a while he'll do one that like this that I really, really like. But most of the time it's just kind of like average or maybe even worse than average. I really liked his first Hostel movie. I really liked Cabin Fever. And I really, really liked Thanksgiving. I think this might be my favorite film of his, actually. So I love this movie for a lot of reasons that we'll get into in the spoiler discussion. But I like how Eli Roth is a horror fan. I mean, he's a fanatic, and he always has been his whole life. And he makes movies he makes movies from the perspective of what he would want to see, right? And I feel like if I had the means to make a horror movie, I would probably go at it the angle that Eli Roth does in a lot of cases. And then in terms of a holiday slasher, Thanksgiving was kind of missing that in its kind of horror canon. I mean, there was like cheesy ones, like Thanksgiving with the killer turkey, which is freaking hilarious. But you can't take it seriously, obviously. Blood Rage is a great one from the 80s, but it's a product of his time. So I think that what he did with this movie, I think in like 20 years from now, people are going to look at this film when they think about a horror movie on Thanksgiving, and this is going to be the one. Like John Carpenter's Halloween is the Halloween movie. And you could grab a holiday horror from a Christmas perspective, and you could say, this is the Christmas horror movie. For me, it's probably Black Christmas from Bob Clark. But I think that Eli Roth may have done something really special here for the horror community, at least. And I know you won't be as close to it, and you won't see won't be close to your heart like that. But I just love how he really kind of took those horror tropes that are played out, and he did something kind of unique and creative with them. He didn't shy away from them. Like this is the same horror movie that we've seen a million times. Right? So how was he able to do something different with it? And I think what he did, we'll get into when we get into the spoilers, because I don't want to get too specific here at the top. But I love this thing, man. Like I have some problems with it, and we'll talk about that too. But overall, I was beyond pleasantly surprised with Thanksgiving. What about you, buddy? Nick is asleep. I'm not sure if it's from the turkey.
Sorry.
I thought maybe it was the turkey.
Listening to you talk about how much you love this boring, predictable slop. It put me straight to sleep.
Oh man.
So here's the problem. You mentioned it right there in your review. This is the same horror movie that you've already seen 1,000 times. Yes, it is. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's not doing anything interesting. Has a couple of really cool kills. We'll definitely give it that. There's some really, really cool kills. But other than that, like it does the same thing. We'll talk about it in spoilers, but it does the same thing that Totally Killer did. It deliberately withholds information from the audience to try to pull an 11th hour twist on you. To pull the, whoa, you didn't see that coming, did you? Like, no, because like if you want to lead the audience to a place, like you got to sprinkle in some breadcrumbs. You got to add a little seasoning to that bird. Gerald, you got to pour a little gravy over the top. This is like Thanksgiving food. It's just, piles and piles and piles of just, like just gut busting, like fatty, butter rich, like food. And it's like I said, I at first, like I was interested in it, even though like we got to talk about that whole opening sequence at this stupid store, the Black Friday store thing. We got to talk about that, but like I said, it's got some great kills, but like literally, this horror movie does literally the exact same thing that every other horror movie you have ever seen has done. Literally, and like for me, for somebody who's not a horror fan, like if you're a horror fan, I guarantee you're gonna lap this up. You're going to lap this up spoonful after spoonful. You're going back for seconds. You're going back for thirds. You want extra cranberry sauce on the side of this one. But for me, for somebody who violently detests stupid horror movie tropes, I got madder and madder and madder the longer this movie went on. And then the ending of the movie like literally the ending of the movie, like I said, it was the same thing Totally Killer did. It just completely took me out of the movie and ruined any chance this had of coming away with a positive score for me.
We'll have to get into specifics there as we peel back the spoiler wall. And of course, we'll get to the ending as well, because that was where a couple things ticked off for me as well in terms of my score. But obviously, I liked it a lot more overall than you did. But I think the horror fan part you nailed it. I think that plays into. I mean, I couldn't believe this thing was like an 87 or something on Rotten Tomatoes when I looked yesterday. I was like, what? Movie critics are digging this? I know that's weird. Like in the 80s, they would have hated this movie. But
to be fair,
anyway,
movie critics had to go see Five Nights at Freddy's like 2 weeks ago, so they were desperate for something with even remotely better quality.
That's true. I just didn't expect it. So let's go ahead and peel back the spoiler wall, Nick. So going forward, guys, we're going to kind of dissect, no pun intended, Thanksgiving here from Eli Roth. So there will be spoilers for the movie going forward. If you have not seen it yet, then skip ahead or come back after you have seen the movie. All right. So are you familiar with any other Eli Roth films or no? Have you seen Hostel or?
I think the only thing I'm familiar with Eli Roth from is Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah, he's great in that too. So this was, I'm not sure if you're aware of it or not, but this was based on a fake trailer for Death Proof and what was the Rodriguez Grindhouse that Tarantino and Rodriguez did?
Planet Terror, and
right. So this was a fake like 3-minute trailer back then, and it was a movie that Roth had always wanted to do because, like I said in my kind of opening there, Thanksgiving was kind of lacking that. Like, I don't want to say serious because I don't think this movie really takes itself serious, but it does have a plot and there is some built-in commentary there. I don't think it's taking itself too seriously to where I was like rolling my eyes, but let's start out with the Black Friday riot thing at the beginning in the first like 15, 20 minutes. Kind of the cold open of the movie, kind of really sets up the motive for the killer. And most of the victims are involved in this opening scene as well. So obviously consumerism and, the holiday being taken over by retail, which I'm in retail. So that kind of, strikes a nerve with me. I mean, we're open on Thanksgiving at my retail establishment, so I'll just tell you. So I kind of get the generic point, right? But why don't you talk a little bit about how because you kind of sounded like you were invested, but then it kind of played out not to your liking, or what did you think of this open?
It did the same thing most of the things in this movie did, Gerald. It just went on for too long. That cold open takes like forever because there's way too many characters in this thing that it has to establish, even if they're just minor characters. And then it has to just revel in all these different shots of like all this different stuff like that's going on. It just is, it's on and on and on. And here's the thing, it's over the top. Like it's really, really, really over the top and kind of tonally, like, especially when you watch the rest of the movie. I mean, I know I'm sitting in like behind a giant, turkey mascot from a turkey parade, in terms of like from the movie, but like seriously, like, it just went on too long, and tonally it's so out of step with the rest of the movie. Like the way that this cold open is shot, the way that this whole opening is shot, I really, really expected the whole rest of this movie to be as over the top as this, and it wasn't. And like did you read that whole thing as over the top? And it was trying to be excessive. Like I felt it was trying to be excessive.
I did too, but I thought I didn't think it was to a detriment though. I thought it was like exaggerated to really kind of show how things have kind of gotten to where they've gotten, because I mean, it gets worse and worse every year. And not only the Black Friday stuff and the consumerism part, but also like the social media stuff, because the guy's filming it on his phone, which ends up being a pretty big plot device throughout the movie. That there's a video of people getting killed and people are liking it and saying, oh, that looks fake and I don't believe it. I mean, so like all that shit happens like in today's society in real life. So I don't know that it happens necessarily to this like over the top way, like what you're saying. Cause I do agree with you that it was very exaggerated.
Like I know that people have definitely been trampled to death in these kinds of scenarios, like in like those kinds of things on Black Friday. Like that's definitely something that's happened. You know,
I
I just
agree.
I feel like I said, this movie. I mean, it's kind of a commentary on Thanksgiving in and of itself, right? Like like Thanksgiving's a holiday of excess, you know, like
Sure.
you gorge yourself on like this big plate, like you overstuff yourself. Most people do anyway, or at least that's what most people take away from Thanksgiving. They're overstuffing themselves. This movie, to its detriment, in my opinion, is kind of like that Thanksgiving plate. You added just a little bit too much turkey on there. Ooh, you really sure you got room for all that stuffing, bruh? Ooh, man, I don't know if you're gonna make it through those 2 dinner rolls. Oh, seconds. You want seconds even? I don't know, man. You look like you're pretty full. Oh, now you want a slice of pie right after? You don't want to wait a few hours let your food settle? Like that's this movie to me. Like it's literally like that Thanksgiving plate. But you know what? I want that on my Thanksgiving plate. I don't want that in a theater when I'm trying to watch a movie. I want I
Yeah.
want the right amount of everything. And this thing, it just dwelled on a lot of this stuff too long for me.
I
Just
do
way too
agree
long.
with you. I do agree with you that the Black Friday sequence in the beginning was longer than I wanted it to be. Like that's the easiest way I can put it. Like I feel like the black security guard guy, he could have gotten trampled. His I think the dude's name was Mitch. His wife, played by Gina Gershon, I believe.
Yep.
Wasn't it Gina Gershon?
Yeah, it was.
Or was
Yeah, it
okay,
was.
yeah. And she gets killed. Like I feel like we could have seen that. Like there was some important stuff that happened in it. Obviously, see the dude filming it on his phone because that ends up playing into a lot of other stuff. But like, in other words, you could have had those 5 or 6 like important deaths or things happen in 5 minutes, not in 15 minutes. So I do feel like it went on a lot longer than it really needed to kind of set us up, because this was all a setup, because of what happens, we find out later in the reveal that that's basically the killer's motivation is this Black Friday riot. And
Which
kind of
doesn't
how,
make any sense, which I also want to talk about, but we'll get there.
Yeah, so as we move along through the movie, I mean, obviously we're not going to go through scene by scene or whatever, but what did you think of, we'll start, because we usually do our favorite like kills and characters and stuff like that. So what'd you think of this group of characters? The main kind of like high school kids that are the center of, there's like 4 or 5 of them.
The 5 of them, minus either one of her boyfriends, that is. The 5 of them, like the core group of the 5 of them, really enjoyed them.
Yeah, I did too.
Didn't have any problem with any of those characters. I enjoyed them. I mean, like the Ryan kid was like kind of that douchey dude, but like that's just how high schoolers are and everything. And like none of those characters were designed to be like super, super annoying or abrasive. So I really, really enjoyed them. Hated both of the boyfriend characters, both the one that she previously had
Really?
that disappears, and then the one that comes back. Well, because the problem is, Gerald, they're the same characters that you've seen in every one of these types of horror movies. They are the
Yeah.
characters that are obviously the most like viable suspects. So it's definitely clearly not going to be them. Like they're throwing
Right.
all this suspicion at both of them, and they even like deliberately try to play into it, like at the end with one of them, that one of them's like definitely it.
Mhm.
But like it's clear that they're those characters in horror movies that are just there to be like, it's way too obvious for it to be this person.
The ending, I know we're skipping like a bunch of shit, but just real quick, one thing that I did not like about this movie at all was like how at the end when we get to the reveal and what you're talking about, where they kind of like made us think it might be the ex-boyfriend for a second, and then we found out who it really was. Didn't that all happen really fast, or was that just me? There were a
few things that happened a little bit too quickly in this movie.
Yeah, that really bothered me because I was like, how did he get there?
Like, here's the one thing: like the girl who has like the Russian dad, the one that's dating the black kid Scuba.
Yeah,
how does she die? Because it was cut so quickly. Like, did she accidentally trip and the saw just happened to turn on, or did they do it intentionally and kill her with the saw intentionally? The whole thing was shot so quickly and like cut so quickly, I couldn't tell.
It was shot quickly, but he threw her onto it. He threw her onto the saw and then kind of like left while she was.
Like that whole sequence played out so fast to me. I was like, wait, did she trip and like smack the switch of the saw like on her way down or something like that? I'm like, it made literally no sense to me. So it was just like one of those things that just happened like way too quickly. I'm just like, oh, come on.
Now look, dude, you and I are friends. Like, I'm a horror guy. You're not. So I was literally salivating at some of the kills in this movie. Really, all of them, to be
I
honest
mean,
with
the
you.
kills are the best part of the movie by far.
I mean, they were so good, dude. So like,
yeah, the kills are the best part of the movie. Like I said, if you're a horror fan, they're the kind of they're the extra gravy all over your turkey and stuffing and potatoes. Like, you're gonna lap it up. You're gonna lap it up.
now one thing. So I mentioned the trampoline kill. I freaking love that thing, dude. That was awesome. And one thing I'll say about Eli Roth too is that he is very inventive when it comes to like new ideas for kills in his movies. Like they seem familiar, but at the same time, you go, you know what? I don't think I've ever seen that before. You know what I mean? Like it has like a quality where it like feels like it's normal to have seen in previous films, but then you really have a hard time kind of figuring if you've ever seen it before. So I can't recall ever seeing a death on a trampoline like that with the blade. I thought that was really cool. I was ear to ear for like a solid 5 to 10 minutes during the dinner scene when he finally gets everybody there and they're all at the table and he ends up taking out, I guess it was it Scuba that he ends up beating with the mallet?
No. It was like the Ryan kid or whatever.
Yeah, he takes him out with the fucking mallet. and that was what I was talking about too, because then you have the social commentary, right? Because it's being streamed. So as this kid's getting his brains bashed out, people are liking it and like, commenting on it and throwing up hearts or whatever, emojis. So like, it's like the society is like almost hopeless. And Eli Roth was trying to capture that, but not like in a slap you in the face kind of way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that dinner scene, dude. And when Kathleen comes, I think her name's Kathleen, comes out of the fucking oven and he's serving her like a turkey. Like that whole shit, bro. That was just like one of the best horror scenes from a gasping kind of perspective where you're like kind of in shock, but you can't look away that I can remember.
Yeah, no, hated it.
Really?
Because it again, like, well, I liked the bashing of the brains in, but like the whole setup of her getting put in the oven and basted and cooked like the turkey and all that kind of stuff. Number one, she was in the oven she was in the oven for like 4 minutes. Number two, like that whole sequence of like her escaping and like her like maybe potentially getting away and like all these different things and blah blah blah, only to then get caught again. And it's like, but we hate Kathleen anyway. Like, why do we care what happens to her?
Right.
Why do we have this drawn out sequence of her potentially escaping and sneaking around and hiding and all this kind of stuff? It's so drawn out. It's so ridiculously drawn out. And at that point, it's so late in the movie. It's like, can we please just get to the point already? Can we please just get to this? Because like at this point, I'm like, just tell us who the stupid killer is. I don't care anymore. I want to go home. Like I've already been in the theater for like a half an hour of trailers and commercials. And then I've already been here for like the 4 hours that this movie has been up to this point. Like I could have probably fit in a screening of Killers of the Flower Moon in between here and there. Like it dragged. That's another one of those sequences, just like everything else in this movie. There's just too much of it. It just keeps heaping it on.
I loved it, sir.
And like I said, a horror fan, like somebody who loves horror, is going to be like, give me more, give me more. For me, I'm like, I'm so over this. I hate this. This is like, we get the point. We know she's going to die anyway, because nobody likes the character. Like, we don't want her to survive anyway, because she's just been this horrible succubus the whole time. So it's like, okay, we're just waiting for her to die. Like, please let her die. Like it's like the really douchey Hanover kid or whatever. Like when they go to Hanover, like that's not protracted, just snaps the kid's neck. And like the trampoline kill you were talking about, it's quick. It's quick. Why did we get this whole like long drawn out like 5-minute sequence with Kathleen? Why is that not with a character we actually care about?
Sure.
It's just poor. It's poor. It's so poor. It's poor, Eli Roth, and I hated it, and I hate you.
What did you think of the reveal? So obviously we're in the spoiler section, guys. So we so we touched on it a little bit. I did not like the brisk editing, or I feel like there was a scene missing, but like he was at the John Carver house, right?
Yep.
And we had the dinner scene that we were just talking about. And then she escapes. Our final girl escapes.
Yep.
Which I also thought was cool because she had the ring with the little. I like that dude, by the way. The rock dude that sold him the guns or whatever.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
thought
yeah.
he was cool. He was a cool kind of side character. McCarty, I think his name was.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, so she gets out of the ropes and unties herself, and she flees. She escapes. So John Carver goes after her, obviously, outside the house, and gets to like a fence that she has jumped over to the other side, and then it like fades to black, or right? I mean, am I crazy, or did I feel like this was edited super strange? Because
It's really weird because she escapes, she climbs over the fence, and the killer's on the other side of the fence, but then she like runs into town, and there's like
right,
the cop is like the cop's not even dead. Is the cop or is the cop dead? I
no,
can't even tell. The cop's just
the
like there
sheriff,
on the
yeah,
ground or whatever, and like the whole thing. It's like, but how did you get there? Like I don't even understand
right,
how you got there and then happened to plant yourself there. Because spoiler alert, McDreamy's the evil murderer.
yeah,
But
and
like
so he's on the ground like with like blood on his head or whatever outside of his patrol car, and that's when we see the ex-boyfriend, the baseball player, in the warehouse
yeah,
where the police car, where all this is happening. And so she thinks it's him because she's, and she comes, and then he comes too. So he wasn't dead. He was just passed out or whatever.
yeah.
So he comes too, and he's like, okay, I know who it is now too. I'll get him. You just wait outside. And right then I knew that he was going to be the bad guy, if you will. But what I was going to say is that like he has a line in there when he's doing the monologuing, which of course our reveal or killer always has to monologue everything that they planned or whatever.
Yeah.
But he has a line in there where he had that kid in the trunk of his car, and when he opened the trunk, the kid hit him with a tire iron, and that's why he was on the ground. But again, I just didn't understand. Like, I really had to think about that after the movie was over, because I was like, well, how
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, how did he, and that's the other thing is like, how did he get to like that specific point? Like, how did he know she was going there? To like, where is that? That's just the
Right,
warehouse where they had the floats and stuff. Like,
right,
why, like, they would have gone there?
exactly.
Like, I don't understand necessarily. Like,
Like, you
geographically,
wouldn't
was
run
that
to
supposed
the
to be
police
near
station or
where
your
that John
house,
Carver
or
house
like,
was? Yeah, like, I don't know.
yeah.
It was like super, that was all super, super weird and like super
I feel
convenient
like there
or
was some
whatever.
missing. I feel like there were some
Probably.
missing scenes, or editing was. I don't know, but I mean, it didn't hurt the overall movie for me, but it was just a head scratcher where I was just like,
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know,
and
but
like I said, so the biggest problem that I have with this thing is you get to this final reveal, Gerald, and it does the same thing that Totally Killer did, and I complained about it then, but I really hate it's bad writing, it's bad movie writing. I'm sorry, it is. If you purposely withhold information from the audience in order to try to conceal your twist, if you want to pull that big, ooh, gotcha. Ooh, you never expected that. Like this whole thing, like, dude, Gina Gershon was pregnant with his baby and he was having an affair
right.
with her. Like, since when? Since when?
So
You reveal
exactly,
it at the 11th hour to give the killer some kind of extra motive because you're just like, nobody's going to buy it otherwise. Like, nobody's going to buy that the cop would have been like the one to start doing all the murders or anything like that, unless you give him that extra kind of thing in there. And it's like, and I'm sorry, but it's bad. It's, if you want to have a twist and you want to have like a gotcha twist, then what you need to do is you need to plant those little seeds for the audience to get there. Like
exactly.
you need to put those little seeds together. And maybe I'm dumb and maybe I just missed them. Maybe they were in there. But like,
No,
I'm sorry,
I
but
think
I think that's terrible, terrible writing. When you have to stop the movie wholesale and you have to have a flashback of him explaining his motivation, because you
I
can't just
think
get it as soon as you find out it's him. You can't just be like, oh yeah.
right. I think I agree with you, because I feel like had we found out as the audience earlier in the film that she had been pregnant, right?
Yeah.
Not even necessarily that he was the father, but just that she had been pregnant and kind of left it ambiguous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or that they had, or a flashback of them making out, or like, I don't know. I mean, anything that would have linked them together romantically.
Anything.
Because I think, and I believe you mentioned this actually during the Totally Killer review, but he ends up being the killer, the sheriff, and that's fine. I mean, he's he's the bad guy. But like, if everybody's a suspect, to quote Scream, to quote Randy, then when you reveal them, like you're saying, you don't have to give a reason why they're the killer.
Yeah.
You already know it from a prior scene or whatever. Like, oh yeah, well of course it was him because like whatever. So like if it had ended up being Mitch, for let's just say, oh of course it was Mitch.
Yeah, it would
Like
have
he
been
was
it
the
would have been
manager
super
at the
obvious because he
store,
was
and
so angry about them keeping
yeah,
the store open and his wife getting trampled to death.
right.
Yeah.
And in fact, it kind of makes it predictable to who the killer was because you're like, well, why is this guy squeaky clean the whole movie? You know what I mean? So
yeah, they bring Mitch back, like, and that's like the other thing. It's like there's a serial killer, Gerald, loose in this town, wearing a John Carver mask, not even like just stabbing them or shooting them, but like gruesomely, like disfiguring, murdering, like doing horrible, terrible things to people.
yeah.
You ain't gonna jump in the middle of a parade and hold up a sign to protest wearing a John Carver mask. Like, I don't care how mad you are at the store. I don't care how much you hate the store. I felt like that was like wicked, like out of character. And they only did it because they wanted to make the main girl like see the John Carver face everywhere in the crowd. And I'm just like,
well, I don't know. I haven't heard Eli Roth say this, but to me, that was a homage to like, I Know What You Did Last Summer. Like there's a parade scene in that movie that was eerily similar to this one. I'm not saying it was like,
did it also have this giant turkey in it?
It didn't. It was a July 4th parade.
This
but I mean,
poor turkey that gets his head cut off.
It was like that where Sarah Michelle Gellar was seeing the fishermen and all these different, because everybody had the similar.
Like that's the other thing that really doesn't bother me. Like at first, or like that really does bother me, I should say. Like at first, like he's deliberately killing people that have stuff to do with the whole
Black Friday,
the whole Black Friday thing. You know, like he's deliberately killing people that have things to do with that. Okay, two things about that I'll say. Number one, there were a lot more people that would have been filming that. Yep. And there were a lot more people that were greedy and stomping on people and forcing their way in. Why don't we see any of them get massacred? Maybe in Thanksgiving 2 Electric Boogaloo, we're going to see McDreamy come back because, of course, the movie ends with him just disappearing and not like we don't see his body or anything like that. So whatever. But yeah, so that's the number one thing. It's like, okay, why target these people specifically? Number two, why specifically target like half of those kids? Like, I mean, yeah, like their dad owns the store, but like it was a weird kind of twisted logic for me. Like it made sense to me, and I actually kind of liked. Like I really was hoping that the movie was going to go in this direction, where it was literally going to take out like all the jerk people that caused the riot, like the waitress who was like being a giant jerk, and like the Hanover kid, and like the cheerleader girlfriend, and like all those really crappy characters who were just like giant jerks. But then like all these kids are just like hiding scared. Like her dad owns the store, of course she's going to go in there. Like on the list of people to blame for this riot, like they're like at the very bottom of it. You know, like they're at the, like maybe his twisted logic, like whatever, he connects those dots however he's going to connect those dots to justify it to himself. Like that's one thing, but like those kids are just, most of them except for the one that's filming, like the rest of them are all like literally hiding scared. Like because
the twisted
just, like,
logic.
So
the
scared.
Twisted logic is that they went into the store early, which as a result caused the riot.
Yeah,
I think he mentions that.
Which is well, he does. He mentions that as one of his justifications, but I don't buy that logic at all. Like I really don't. And then like
it's a stretch.
And then like, but number two, what does Turkey do, man? What does Turkey do? He ain't have nothing to do with no Black Friday. Look at him. Look at his little waddle there hanging over. He's got a big grin on his face. He's so happy.
Didn't he? I feel like that was the mascot. They mentioned him a couple times, but I feel like he was doing something on the Black Friday thing too, though. But I don't know.
Was he being this big turkey? I don't remember if he was or not. Hey, you know why I wouldn't remember? Because that happened like 4 hours ago in the same movie. Like, I could have fit in Killers of the Flower Moon in between.
I think you and I are. By the way, I'll just wrap up on what you were saying by saying that the reveal, the finale of the movie, was the weakest part for me. What I really wanted, and I'll just say this to you, but to any horror fans that are listening, I dug this movie, but what I really was hoping was that, and I'm not talking about as I was watching, and I'm talking about before I went to see it, I was hoping that the John Carver killer, or the Pilgrim killer that I saw in the trailer and stuff, was going to be kind of like this mysterious kind of entity, kind of like Michael Myers was for the first few movies, where it didn't make sense and there was not really any connection. He was just this, they called him the shape that just stalked people, and nobody really knew why. It made it more scary, you know? And I was kind of hoping that that was going to be what this was and that it would spawn a bunch of sequels. And I'm not saying it won't, but now that you did what you did here with Patrick Dempsey, you're going to have to like play into logic every time now. Do you know what I'm saying? Whereas if it had just been a killer, some dude, the movie ends, we don't really know what the connection is, and we find out as the series of films goes on. Do you know what I'm saying?
We're gonna find out in the sequel. We're gonna find out that McDreamy and Gina Gershon's baby really survived somehow, even though she got killed, and that baby is gonna grow up to be another John Carver killer, and it's gonna terrorize like all of the other people in this. Yeah, I mean, like, would it have been better if it had done that? Like, I don't know. I can't necessarily say one way or the other. I think it's one of those things where like they feel like they have to gift wrap it for the audience. Like it's kind of a dumb horror movie in that way, where it's just like it's got to make sure that you got everything about it that it was trying to say and all the twists it was trying to give you and all that. It has to make sure it gives wrap, puts it on the platter for you, to make sure you got it all before you walk out of the theater. That's
I loved
like modern audiences and stuff like that, but still,
I loved like I said, pretty much every kill in the movie. But I want to give a shout out to the corn cob fucking thing in the ears too. I loved that because I don't think those have ever been used in a horror movie before. So I thought that was cool. Right after she was using the Q-tip, I love the face and the fucking on the Colt box door. Her face kind of freezing to the door there. The waitress.
Why I liked even better, like, the way that she dies is like number one, she's an idiot. She's in the manager's office that the killer can't get into, and then she decides to leave after she's too like stupid to wipe her phone off so she can swipe it open. Then like literally like is in the parking lot and gets run down by him in the car and gets cut in half by the dumpster. Like that was great.
Yeah, that's great.
That was great,
really
man.
good.
That was great.
Yeah, the kills are top tier.
Yeah, the kills are great.
Top tier in this
like
movie.
absolutely amazing. Like entrails hanging all over the place. Blood and guts spraying everywhere. Like if you want your absolute murder massacre mayhem to go down, you'll get that. But like don't expect this script to like do any kind of heavy lifting or anything. It plays into every single horror movie trope you've ever seen 1,000 times. And my only question about this, I guess, to you is you ain't getting McDreamy for like a bunch of sequels to this thing. Maybe one, maybe. Well, like this ain't gonna spawn no franchise. McDreamy's not gonna like attach himself to like 10 Thanksgiving murder movies. Like I thought, like, I mean, granted, like I'm not super familiar with Patrick Dempsey's career. I only know that he's done Grey's Anatomy and like I've seen him maybe pop up in a handful of other things. But like, I mean, if he's playing against type a little bit there, which I mean, that's another reason why you wouldn't necessarily suspect him being the killer, because he's usually that kind of dashing romantic lead, not the super serial murderer. So,
right, yeah, I get what you're saying.
I didn't hate that about it. I just hated.
I think
they could have skipped if they would have just cut out the whole Gina Gershon baby thing. Like, I still would have been like, well, he's the person I least suspected, but. Okay, like, but you didn't have to add that extra layer in there of like, oh, but also you killed my baby.
Make sense. Yeah,
like,
to make it make sense. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, if anybody should have been a killer, it should have been that Mitch dude. I felt bad for that guy.
Well, that's the thing too. Is like I would have loved to see more of that character because like you see so little of him, and then like I said, like you got like the two boyfriends of the main character that are both just idiots. Like I hated both of those characters. Nell Verloc, by chef's kiss, by the way. But yeah, I mean like the two boyfriend characters were insufferable. Like that whole bro dude energy, like where they're like shoving each other around and like, you're the murderer. No, you're the murderer. And like all this different stuff and blah, blah, blah. It's just like, like I said, they were, I'm done. I'm done with it. It's over. 4 out of 10. I hated it. It's not good. If you're a horror movie fan, go to the theater. You're going to have a blast.
That's basically the summary I was going to give to. I mean, and we're the living example of that. I mean, I'm a huge horror fan, and I thought it was great. Nick does not like horror movies, and he gave it a 4. So
horror movies got to try hard with me to win me over.
Yeah,
and if you're going to play the same old song that I have not seen a ton of horror movies, but I have seen this horror movie. Not set at Thanksgiving, maybe, but set at a different holiday with the same exact characters, the same exact twists. I've seen it 1,000 times. And I've seen nothing.
So, in wrapping up on Eli Roth's Thanksgiving, I gave it an 8 out of 10, and Nick gave it a 4, which puts it at a 6 overall.
Drag that average down, baby. Love it. Yes.
Go see Thanksgiving this weekend. It's going to make a shit ton of
if
money.
You're a horror
horror
movie
genre
fan.
Is going to continue to rule. So, just don't eat that plastic turkey, whatever you do.
No, I couldn't stand looking at it behind me anymore. That's why I had to switch out to the little mascot guy.
We're in agreement there, Nick, on the food props for this movie.
Worst food prop I've ever seen in a film or TV show. It looked god awful. Every time I saw the trailer in the theater to see another movie, it literally just kind of made me like.
So, since we changed up the schedule and switched to Thanksgiving yesterday, I threw up the comment section over on the fan page. Guys, if you want to participate, check out the show notes and join up to the Facebook fan community over there. We always reach in to the comment section and grab a question out each week, each of us to answer each week. Nick, did you get a chance to look at those? You got a question you want to answer for the guys over there?
Why don't you go first? Why don't you hit me with yours first? Because I have a bad habit of stealing all the questions, and then you got nothing.
Yeah, you just read them all.
I'm taking all the turkey. I'm taking all the good breast meat, and I'm gonna eat it all up. And then you're gonna be like, oh man, I've got this like dried up drumstick left.
So this question got asked in the Facebook fan page by Jared Taylor, patron and friend of the show. And then over on Twitter, Nerdjavert, who's also a patron, asked a very, very similar version of the same question. So I'm going to go answer. It's both of them. But Jared says, what holiday would you like to see get a horror movie treatment? A horror movie based around it.
Most of them have one, right?
They do. So I have a plot twist on my answer here.
Ooh, okay.
So it's not necessarily a holiday, but I'm going to tell you right now that on daylight savings time, I almost become a serial killer and snap and start killing people. So where is our daylight savings slasher? Do you know what I mean? Like just a dad that's just like over it. Like I can't get my kids to bed anymore. Like I have to get up and it's the sun's out or it's dark outside or whatever, and he just loses it. I mean, daylight savings is just stupid to me. I hate it.
You get out of work like at 4:00, but it's already dark out
like
because of daylight savings, and you just snap and go on a spree.
So for me, it's daylight savings time.
I like that. Hollywood, I need you to get on that like right now.
Yeah. So I don't know. Can you think of one? I think I'm kind of like you. I think they've all been done in one way or another.
I mean, Valentine's Day has been done like to death. Yeah. Christmas has been done to death. Is there an Easter horror? There's got to be an Easter themed horror movie. An Easter themed horror movie, but not with the Easter Bunny, but with Jesus. Like Jesus comes back and just starts murking people with like the cross or something like that.
Wow.
Just like straight like cleaving dudes' heads off with the cross, like swinging it like a battle axe.
I don't think there's a Hanukkah one, is there? I don't know what you do.
I don't know. Like maybe
kill
like
people with a dreidel.
What is it like 7 nights of gifts or whatever? Like 7 nights of murder.
Yeah, there you go.
It could be 7 nights of murder or something like that. Maybe I don't know.
So anyway, to answer Jared's question, for me, it's daylight savings would be. It's not a holiday necessarily, but let's do it. Yeah, it makes people snap. I feel like. What about you got a question you grab out of the
So here's the thing. Section? All these questions are all pretty much related to Eli Roth and Eli Roth's filmography, which I know nothing about. I've never seen another Eli Roth movie that he's directed. And like I said, the only thing I've ever seen is Inglourious Bastard when he's the bear Jew. So my question, I'm gonna finally give it to him, G. He's been dying for this for months now. Julio from the Contrarians.
I know. I was reading this thing. Yeah.
He said, "Did you find any of the events in the movie unforgivable?" Because I mean, obviously, we were supposed to do Unforgiven this week, and I think I covered enough of them in the review there. You know, the last second reveal where it's like, oh, but also she was pregnant with my baby and was going to leave Mitch for me and all this stuff. And it's like, what? Huh? Like, hey, let me pack in extra plot details that you didn't know about here at the 11th hour. I find that unforgivable in any movie. There you go.
Julio also asked there if there's any way this movie could live up to the 15-year-long hype of the trailer. As the one I was talking about that was in Grindhouse. I like that it was different because that was a Grindhouse like 70s rustic trailer.
See, I haven't seen Grindhouse in so long I don't even remember it. The only thing I remember about the trailers during Grindhouse was Machete, which I mean, obviously there was a couple of those, right?
Yep. All right, man. So there you go. There's our review of Thanksgiving. Nick, happy Thanksgiving to you, brother. We'll get together next week. We'll get together next week. We'll talk about Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven.
Still no holdovers for you down there?
No. Well, it did expand, yeah. But we're gonna do. Are we gonna do it though, or do you want to do Saltburn? Because I'm like pumped to see Saltburn.
What's Saltburn again?
That's the Emerald Fennell.
The real question is gonna be if I'm gonna get that around here. That's gonna be the real question. I'll tell you what. I'm gonna probably see the holdovers in the next week. So whatever. We can fit it in there. We can do whatever you want to do.
I'll hit you up. We'll definitely do Unforgiven next week because I'm not going to be able to go to the theater to see anything this week anyway. So we'll do that next week, and then we'll figure out. It'll be a new release, probably Holdovers or Saltburn. We've
got Napoleon in there if we want to, watch Ridley Scott do a big history epic again. Trolls World Tour or Trolls Band Together or whatever it's called. I know Gerald's probably been itching for that one.
No, we're not doing that one.
Something I don't know. We'll fit it in there. We got plenty of new stuff. And the strike's over. All the strikes are over. Everybody's back to work and all this kind of stuff. So we'll finally stop seeing release dates get pushed, and we'll actually be able to watch some stuff again, which is going to be great.
Yeah,
we've got December packed full. We've got award season like snowballing toward us, like fever pitch here. We're probably going to have to start like packing in some extra episodes, maybe over on the Patreon, to squeeze in some extra films. We got to
see all these
stuff
because we got to see all these movies before the end of the year. I mean,
that's true. We got a lot of stuff to see because we got lists to make. We're going to have to do a classic 2-piece episode where we make a list of the top 5 movies of the year, and Gerald will be like, "Let me round up my top 10."
Yeah, damn straight, brother. Yeah, damn straight. So let's do Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven next week, and then we'll regroup after the holiday, and we'll get a new release in following that review. But that'll be the review next week, guys. And Nick, I hope you have a great Thanksgiving, man. I wish I was there to eat some of your food, but send my best to everybody up there.
Happy Thanksgiving, brother. Love you.